Tonight on NewsCenter, President Park Geun-hye vows to accept public sentiment reflected in last week's parliamentary election results and to work closely with the opposition-dominated National Assembly to address public needs. Fears of more tremors run high in the quake-stricken city of Kumamoto, Japan, and the death toll in the Ecuador earthquake jumps to more than 270. A growing concern, is the Korean peninsula safe from powerful earthquakes? And Seoul and Washington are monitoring an increase in activities at a nuclear test site in North Korea that likely indicate preparations are underway for another nuclear test. We'll have the details. NewsCenter begins right now. It is 9 a.m. in Washington, 2 p.m. in London, and 10 on a Monday night here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching Arirang News Center. President Park Geun-hye will visit Iran next month for the first summit talks between the two countries since the establishment of diplomatic ties back in 1962. The two leaders are expected to touch upon various issues on a wide range of topics, but topping the agenda will likely be boosting economic cooperation as well as sharing views on North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Kim Young-gil has our top story tonight.
Just 3 months after international sanctions on Iran were lifted, President Park Geun-hye will become the first South Korean president to hold summit talks with her Iranian counterpart, as Tehran invited her on a state visit in May. The presidential office of Cheongwade said Monday that Park is set to take off for a 3-day visit on May 1st to sit down with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. In addition to expanding economic cooperation in areas like infrastructure, energy, and plant construction, the two sides will also seek ways to enhance ties in other sectors for future growth, such as health and maritime affairs, as well as education and ODA. A business forum and culture events are also part of the president's schedule. Park will also likely take this chance to convey her message to Pyongyang, as Seoul and Tehran are highly anticipated to discuss North Korea's nuclear issues. President Park has continuously called on Pyongyang to take the route to change, citing Iran as an example.
북한이 핵 개발이 아무 소용이 없다는 것을 깨닫고 이란과 같이 국제사회에 나올 수 있도록 효과 있는 조치를 해주기를 기대합니다.
In addition to sharing Iran's view on sanctions on North Korea, the two countries will also look forward to upgrade their diplomatic relations, touching upon regional and other global issues. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Now, 5 days after her party lost a parliamentary majority, President Park Geun-hye has delivered what could be seen as a concession speech now on behalf of the ruling party. She takes last week's election results as a reflection of public sentiment and will devote the rest of her term in office carrying out her reform drives to lead the country to economic growth. Our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun is live in the studio with me for an in-depth analysis. Now, she sent a message from the president, although it didn't come as quickly after the April 13th election as many had anticipated, but still, this would actually help several contentious bills gain approval in this and next National Assembly.
You're right, Geun-hye. All eyes and ears were on at today's meeting, as it was the first official occasion that Park was expected to address the general elections result. And with about 2 years to go until her term ends, her push for reforms and the economy will remain the same. But she will, for now, seek to renegotiate when speaking with the opposition parties. Now, chairing the regular meeting with her senior secretaries today, President Park says she humbly accepts the people's will and that the election functioned as a reminder of what the nation wanted.
국정의 최우선 순위를 민생에 두고 사명감으로 대한민국의 경제 발전과 경제혁신 3개년 계획을 마무리하도록 하는데 혼신의 노력을 다하고자 합니다. 20대 국회가 민생과 경제에 매진하는 일하는 국회가 되기를 기대하면서 정부도 새롭게 출범하는 국회와 긴밀하게 협력해 나갈 것입니다.
Now, this message delivered more details compared to the statement released Thursday morning after the April 13 general election, in which the spokesperson simply put, quote, "The top office hopes the new parliament will truly care about the livelihoods of the people." Now, prior to this election, she continuously pressed the opposition parties to pass bills key to her reform drives and economic revitalization. Park stressed that efforts must continue with job creation as a top priority among any other policies.
우리 경제의 체질을 바꾸기 위한 개혁들이 중단되지 않고 국가의 미래를 위해 이루어져 나가기를 바랍니다.
She then once again stressed the need for unity, saying that there should be no division of politics or ideology when it comes to inter-Korean matters and national security, as Pyongyang continues to heighten tensions on the peninsula with a potential fifth nuclear test.
Now, Ji-sun, as for the economy and security, she remains consistent. Her message is consistent. How did the political realm react to President Park's message today?
Well, her party, the ruling Seoul Party, has commented that her argument was reasonable and that it was her call to politicians that they should join efforts toward reviving the economy. On the other hand, the Minju Party of Korea partly vowed support in terms of guarding national security, but refreshed its call to the top office to refrain from a one-way communication to the parliament. Now, before the president's meeting with her secretaries this morning, co-leader of the minor opposition People's Party, Ahn Cheol-soo, suggested that the president to open the doors for dialogue and change her way of approaching the parliament.
President Park must shift her approach towards dialogue and cooperation instead of a dogmatic push. The government must also learn to negotiate with the parliament when parties hit a deadlock.
Now, in a way, we could say that she responded to that call, and what to note here is that the People's Party is now the swaying vote in passing bills at the National Assembly, as neither the conservative Saenuri nor the Liberal Minju Party holds the parliamentary majority. Now, to this, pundits say the People's Party now holds the key to approving a handful of contentious bills.
Well, definitely, Ji-sun. We hope that there will be better cooperation between the presidential office and the 20th National Assembly than the ones that we've seen before with the 19th National Assembly.
For the people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that coverage tonight. Now, the floor leaders of Korea's three main political parties met today for the very first time since last week's parliamentary election. The three agreed to convene one more extra parliamentary session before the 19th National Assembly comes to an end next month. Our parliamentary correspondent Park Ji-won files this report.
Speaking to the press this morning, floor leaders of the three main parties agreed to make the best out of the remaining 40-some-odd days left of the 19th Assembly. Meeting for the first time since the general election, the three parties also agreed to convene for the last one-month-long parliamentary session before the 20th Assembly begins at the end of May. The floor leader of the ruling Saenuri Party, which lost its parliamentary majority in the election, once again apologized to the public and ensured it will serve the interests of the country and the public.
Less than 2 months remain in this assembly, and we wish to wrap up this term by making the best out of it, by passing key bills to improve people's livelihoods.
The floor leader of the main opposition Minju Party said the 19th Assembly needs to make up for its shortcomings and respect the public's judgment during the remaining period. The Liberal Party stressed that bills related to labor reform and service industry promotion pushed by the ruling Conservative Party and government need to be reconsidered given the election results.
We believe the public's judgment on the four bills related to labor reform has already been made clear, and we need to conduct the remaining 19th Assembly accordingly.
The centrist People's Party stressed that it will do its best to act as mediator between the two parties in order to produce results and prevent the 19th Assembly from being judged as the worst assembly ever.
We believe that the public voted for us to assume a coordinating role. We all know that there are bills that each bloc has been pursuing, but we need to end the assembly with concessions and agreements.
The three main political parties also agreed to hold two plenary meetings in this last extraordinary session in early and in mid-May to pass some key pending bills. 박지원, Arirang News.
North Korea appears to be preparing to conduct another nuclear test. That's according to President Park Geun-hye and Seoul's defense ministry, citing signs of increased movement near the North nuclear test site. Now, analysts view this as highly likely as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un appears to be trying to burnish credentials ahead of a much-hyped Workers' Party Congress, which is set for early next month. Our defense correspondent Kim Hyun-bin reports.
South Korea's defense ministry has reiterated that North Korea could conduct a fifth nuclear test in the coming days or weeks. The ministry spokesperson said Monday that Pyongyang is capable of conducting an underground nuclear test at any given moment.
The regime could conduct a full test or test a warhead without nuclear materials. There is also the possibility that Pyongyang could conduct an underground test, which we're keeping close tabs on.
During a meeting with her top aides, President Park Geun-hye on Monday said that Pyongyang could stage another provocation to protest its isolation and consolidate national unity. She added that signs of preparations for a fifth nuclear test have been detected. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has already ordered his military to conduct another test in mid-March. All four of North Korea's previous nuclear tests from 2006, 2009, 2013, and earlier this year were carried out at its Punggye nuclear site in the northeastern part of the country. South Korean officials said there had been a drastic increase of vehicle and personnel activity at the site, indicating a nuclear detonation test might be in the works. Experts believe North Korea might conduct a test before its Workers' Party Congress in early May, which will be the regime's first in over 3.5 decades.
The fifth nuclear test by North Korea seems imminent as Pyongyang looks to make up for its failed mid-range ballistic missile launch last week and open its Workers' Party of Congress with a bang. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Well, even more worrisome is the fact that a growing number of relevant parties believe North Korea could ignore international sanctions and go ahead with another nuclear test. However, South Korea's vice foreign minister thinks otherwise. Our Kwon So-ah brings us Im Seong-nam's take on the reclusive state's next move.
Years of efforts to bring North Korea to the right side of history have so far failed to result in desired outcomes, be it through dialogue or pressure. That's what South Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Im Seong-nam said during a lecture to journalists from across the world at the Journalist Forum for World Peace in Seoul on Monday. The minister said, however, that being an optimist and realist, he hopes and believes that Pyongyang can eventually be brought to the right side of history.
My firm belief comes from the fact that the international community, including China and Russia, has never been more united in the determination to counter North Korea's nuclear and missile threat.
That said, Im stressed that the world can no longer afford to be subjected to Pyongyang's deceit and intimidation, and that it's time to make the regime realize that concentration on weapons development will only lead to self-destruction. He added Pyongyang's nuclear program will threaten the Korean people's livelihood, stability in Northeast Asia, and worldwide peace.
Now is the time to create an environment in which North Korea cannot survive without changing its calculation. In short, it is the world versus North Korea.
And representing the world's voices, journalists were encouraged by Vice Minister Im to remind North Korea that its nuclear threats serve no interests, including its own. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
After a series of powerful earthquakes struck southern Japan, the search and rescue team in the Kumamoto prefecture is racing against the clock to find one more survivor to save one more life as the 72-hour window after the quake dries up. But even for those, the tens of thousands of survivors, it's a war zone in the disaster-hit areas, Everything from food shortages to contagious diseases spreading quickly at evacuation shelters. Our Kim Jong-soo sets the scene for us.
A 2,500-member coalition of Japanese military, police, and firefighting forces are upping their efforts to find 9 missing people from the rubble left by devastating earthquakes in Kumamoto Prefecture. Experts say that when the 72-hour limit terminates at 1 a.m. of April 19th, the possibility of survival for the missing individuals will likely drop to near zero. Although the first earthquake took place on April 14th, it was 2 days later when a subsequent quake initiated a substantial landslide in the Kumamoto region. As of today, 9 are currently missing and 42 people have been killed, with more than 1,000 people injured. But it appears that Kumamoto has yet another problem to handle, as 2 men who have been taking refuge in earthquake shelters have been diagnosed with norovirus, also known as the winter vomiting bug. The patients have now been quarantined and are undergoing treatment according to Kumamoto's local government task force. The highly contagious virus, usually transmitted through contaminated water or person-to-person contact, can cause nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The city of Kumamoto has said that the local task force will take all measures necessary to prevent a further spread of the disease. But that is easier said than done, as local news reports have said that an estimated 35,000 households are without power and 270,000 without water supply.
I realize the significance of the situation as the days go by. The water has stopped.
Without proper hygiene secured, the risks of our norovirus epidemic are considerably high. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said he will increase the number of troops to 25,000 and has also accepted a U.S. offer to help with air transportation in the rescue efforts. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Now, across the Pacific, the full extent of the damage from Saturday's massive earthquake in Ecuador was much more visible in broad daylight. That country remains in a state of emergency as the number of casualties continues to climb. Our Yoon-shin has more.
A devastating earthquake hit the South American country of Ecuador on April 16. With a magnitude of 7.8, the deadliest quake to have hit the region in decades. More than 200 were killed, while thousands more have been hurt. President Rafael Correa confirmed 272 people dead so far, with more than 2,500 injured, and he notes that the numbers are expected to rise.
I need to find my baby. It's been 5 hours since she disappeared. All they're telling me is that my family is buried.
It felt like it wasn't going to end. I don't know about my brother yet.
The country's coastal province of Manabí, near the epicenter of the earthquake, was struck the hardest, with nearly 200 people reported dead. However, the damage of aftermath of the quake was felt throughout the entire nation. As the earthquake was followed with more than 135 aftershocks, the Ecuadorian government has deployed 10,000 soldiers and more than 4,000 police officers to aid in rescue efforts. States of emergency have been declared in several provinces, especially in the coastal region. Nations around the world are providing rescue workers along with emergency supplies for the survivors. But the extent of damage in affected regions and the lack of enough water supply as well as communication means are hindering rescue and recovery efforts. Yoon-shin, Arirang News.
So 4 powerful earthquakes struck different parts of the world, Japan, Ecuador, and Tonga, all within 1 week. Now, with the earth mercilessly rumbling in the so-called the Pacific Ring of Fire, there are rising concerns that Korea may no longer be an earthquake-free zone, as it also is located on the same plate as Japan. Lee Ji-won reports.
After a series of earthquakes back-to-back in different parts of the world, there are rising concerns that Korea is no longer free from suffering from such natural disasters. Korea's southern city of Busan, about 320 kilometers away from the Kumamoto prefecture, where 2 earthquakes hit, also felt a tremor. Experts are concerned that there is an increased chance of an earthquake with a magnitude of 5.0 or higher hitting the Korean peninsula in the next few years, as it is located in the same tectonic plate as Japan. Experts added that for an earthquake to occur, time is needed for pressure to be mounted in the plate. But when such big earthquakes occur in a nearby area like the one in Kumamoto, the time for an earthquake to build up quickens, thus putting Korea at risk of seismic activities. Meanwhile, the continuous quakes around the Pacific Rim last week, including a 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Ecuador, are raising concerns that huge changes are underway in the so-called Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is an area in the Pacific Ocean where frequent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes occur. About 90% of the Earth's seismic activities occur in this region, with around 75% of the world's active volcanoes located along the ring. But experts say that the devastating earthquakes in Japan and Ecuador do not have direct cause and effect relationship, and that these will not necessarily lead to one another.
Japan's earthquake was caused by the Philippine Sea Plate subducting beneath the Eurasian Plate, while the one in Ecuador was caused by the Nazca Plate sliding beneath the South American Plate. Since these two are not directly related, it's probable that no more seismic activities can be expected.
이지원, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, Korea's central bank will announce its new growth outlook for this year tomorrow, that is Tuesday. The bank's governor has already hinted that the forecast could be cut to the 2% range. Our Hwang Ji-hye looks into how the downgrade could affect the Bank of Korea's interest policy.
With sluggish exports prompted by the slowing Chinese economy as well as slumbering domestic demand, it's now almost certain that growth in Korea will be in the 2% range this year. Ahead of this month's monetary policy meeting on Tuesday, when the central bank will also release its new growth outlook, the Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol hinted at the possibility of a growth rate below 3% this year. The central bank's current growth forecast stands at 3%, and if the BOK actually cuts its earlier projection, it's not going to be alone. Most local institutions as well as other global investment banks expect Korea to fall short of expansion in the 3% range. With that, market expectations for more easing to prop up growth remain, but analysts say a rate cut is unlikely this month.
Economic indicators in February, as well as export figures for March, have improved, prompting the central bank to keep an eye on the current situation before maneuvering the interest rate.
4 of the central bank's monetary policy board members are scheduled to be replaced following the monetary policy meeting this month, another issue that market watchers say will make it hard for the BOK to cut the key rate. They say it's unlikely incumbent members will take any such actions, as it will leave fewer options for their successors. During his trip to Washington for the G20 financial leaders meeting on Friday, the top central banker also said that the BOK is carefully managing its monetary policy, as it could be dangerous to change the key rate with the country currently facing various external uncertainties. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Now, outside of this country, the world's biggest oil exporting states have failed to agree to freeze production. Saudi Arabia wants a cap to try to boost prices. Iran, on the other hand, which pulled out of the meeting last minute, will not agree. The group's failure to strike a deal in Qatar sent oil prices nosediving once again. Our Kim Min-ji has the details.
No agreement. Officials from 18 oil-exporting nations comprised of both OPEC and non-OPEC members met in Qatar in the hope of inking a deal that would put a ceiling on oil production at January levels. Casting a cloud over the outcome, Iran refused to join the talks at the last minute. Tehran maintains that it would boost production to levels seen post-sanctions. Adding to woes, Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, was only willing to freeze output if all major producers agreed to do so, including Iran. Qatar's oil minister said the group needed more time before an agreement could be reached.
The meeting concluded that we all need time for further consultation from now till June meeting in OPEC. All participating countries will consult among themselves
on the News West Texas Intermediate shed more than 6%, falling below $40 a barrel at one point in trading. Global oil prices have plunged over 70% since mid-2014, driven by near-record production from OPEC and other producers. But many analysts are on the same page that the move to freeze, not cut production will have little impact.
It doesn't mean much because the people involved are talking about freezing their production level at already high rates into a market that is still oversupplied.
Experts say the failure to reach a deal could prevent prices rising anytime soon, with the chance of market balancing out also receding. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
As you all might remember, the United Nations has adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, each goal has specific targets to be achieved over the next 15 years. For an increasing number of Korean companies, these pose 17 different ways to grow their businesses. Our Oh Soo-young tells us more about these new business initiatives that Korean companies are implementing.
Ending poverty, realizing gender equality, and tackling global warming. These are some of the challenges Korean companies are taking on, in line with the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, for the year 2030.
Regardless of industry or size, companies can adopt SDG principles across the board in corporate policy, supply chains management, and even R&D. There are also infinite possibilities for innovation involving new products and services.
KT Corporation is one such example. The country's communication giant aims to fully align its corporate strategy with the SDGs through state-of-the-art ICT and ethical business practices.
Our main areas of focus include healthcare applications, smart energy, and the environment. We also enforce ethical governance and supply chain management within our affiliates.
Also, venture companies are coming up with innovative products and services. Take this company in southern Seoul. It makes trendy phone accessories, high-quality scarves, clothing, and fine leather bags.
You have cashmere in Mongolia, and leathers in African countries, and wood products in Indonesia. But the problem is that many of the companies in developing countries do not have its own business model or channel to sell their products independently. And this is where we come in.
Discussing SDGs as an essential framework for Korean businesses, experts gathered at a forum held by UN Global Compact Korea.
Based on the universal values regarding human rights, labor, and the environment, the SDGs set a clear long-term direction, vital for corporate success as well as economic growth. A fraction of conglomerates and mid-sized companies are on the right track. However, many CEOs, especially those of SMEs, lack awareness and focus mainly on short-term profits.
Experts say the key is thinking longer term. By looking further ahead, business leaders can invest in a sustainable value chain that meets global standards. For the best chance of success, relevant government policy should promote and nurture these efforts. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, off the coast of Korea's southern port city of Busan, last-minute efforts are being made to contain an oil leak from Sunday's vessel capsize. A Korean carrier named Ocean Tango was grounded in a storm over the weekend, which caused its oil tanks to rupture. And due to the leakage, the local industry of female divers known as haenyeo, who relies solely on capturing shells, clams, and other sea products by hand, has been negatively affected. Cleanup efforts by government authorities are ongoing, but they have been hampered by bad weather conditions. Over in Brazil, Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff was defeated in the lower house as it voted in favor of her impeachment. Now, with the country sharply divided between opponents and supporters of the president, the final decision now rests with the Senate. Bruce Harrison reports.
With 367 votes, or more than a two-thirds majority, Brazil's lower house has brought President Dilma Rousseff one step closer to impeachment over charges of manipulating government accounts.
I bring with me our history of struggle for freedom and democracy. That is why I say to the country yes for the future.
Meanwhile, Rousseff's supporters made their last attempts to halt the impeachment against the president, who has not been personally charged with corruption.
The coup has won in the lower house, but the fight has not ended. We believe the Senate will eliminate the attempts of the people involved in the coup.
The Attorney General for the president said he was looking forward to showing evidence at the Senate, something that was not part of the House proceedings.
It will be different in the Senate. In the Senate, we can present evidence. There will be a trial. It will be within what the law prescribes.
If the Senate votes by a majority, Rousseff will have to step down for 180 days to defend herself in a trial. But pro-impeachment demonstrators cheered in the streets.
It's the birth of a new Brazil, a Brazil marked by full democracy, by respect for judicial power for our laws. Everything that is to come will be better.
According to opinion polls, more than 60% of Brazilians support the impeachment. The impeachment battle comes during Brazil's worst recession since the 1930s, and it has divided the country just months ahead of hosting this year's Summer Olympic Games. Bruce Harrison, Arirang News.
Well, big swings in temperatures are getting many people sick in this country. Plus, we are nearing the peak season for contagious diseases like chickenpox and mumps. For more on that and the weather, let's go over to our Jihan at the Weather Center. Jihan, give us some more details on these chickenpox and mumps season coming up.
Well, Hyun-young, as the weather gets warmer, the number of kids from 3 to 7 and age between 13 and 17 with chickenpox and mumps are on the rise in Korea, but both are vaccine preventable. So be sure to get the respective vaccines in advance and wash hands frequently.
Right, washing your hands, it seems like that's really the key to all other diseases, preventing them. Now, shifting gears to the weather, we've been seeing Hallasan Mountain getting wintry today. What is that all about?
Well, one of Hallasan's volcanic cones, Wisseorum, received 1 centimeter of snow since last night until early this morning, creating a winterland scene. But in the meantime, this evening's light rain in the upper regions will continue overnight. But tomorrow, mild temperatures will return under sunny skies across the nation. But beware of the big gaps in temperatures, as the single-digit morning lows are expected in Seoul and Tehran, kicking off at 7 degrees Celsius, and 11 and 12 is the low temperature in Busan and Jeju. And as for the daily highs, Seoul will get up to 19 degrees Celsius, while Daegu and Busan will see a high of 20 degrees Celsius. And it seems like pleasant spring weather will dominate the week under a good amount of sunshine here in Seoul. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
That is our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Moon Gan-young. Our thoughts and prayers are with all those affected by the earthquakes in Japan and Ecuador. We hope you remember that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you as always for staying with us, and we hope to see you right back here same time tomorrow on NewsCenter.